it really should not be possible to build a giant rocket faster than the paper can move from one desk to another. So, you need things that move your heart.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, I think the sort of useful humanoid robot opportunity is the single biggest opportunity ever.
Can we talk about SpaceX? You have a bunch of critical milestones coming up.
Yeah, in fact, there's a very exciting launch that is maybe happening tonight. So if the weather is holding up, then this will be the first time, the first commercial spacewalk, and it'll be at the highest altitude since Apollo. So it's the furthest from Earth that anyone's gone.
And what comes after that? Let's assume that's successful. And
I sure hope so, man.
No pressure.
Yeah, we're absolutely astronaut safety is, man. If I had like all the wishes I could say about, that'd be the one to put on. So, space is dangerous. So the next milestone after that would be the next flight of Starship, which the next flight of Starship is ready to fly. We are waiting for regulatory approval.
Yeah.
It really should not be possible to build a giant rocket faster than the paper can move from one desk to another.
That stamp was really hard. Approved.
Yeah.
You ever see that movie Zootopia?
Approved.
You ever see that movie Zootopia? There's like a sloth.
He's coming in for the approval.
Yeah, and then he accidentally tell a joke, and I was like, oh no, this is
No, here we go.
This is going to take a long time.
Sorry.
The government is more competent than it is. I'm not saying that there aren't competent people in the government. They're just in an operating system that is inefficient. Once you move them to a more efficient operating system, their output is dramatically greater, as we've seen. When East Germany was reintegrated with West Germany, and the same people were vastly more prosperous with a basically half-capitalist operating system. So, but I mean, for a lot of people, their maybe most direct experience with the government is the DMV, and then the important thing to remember is that the government is the DMV at scale.
Right.
That's the government.
Got the mental picture.
How much do you want to scale it? So, we think we'll be able to launch reliably and repeatedly and quite quickly. And the fundamental holy grail breakthrough for rocketry, the fundamental breakthrough that is needed for life to become multiplanetary is a rapidly reusable, reliable rocket. RRR. Yeah. With a pirate somehow. Throw a pirate in there. So Starship is the first rocket design where success is one of the possible outcomes with full reusability. Starship not only is full reusability in the set of possible outcomes, it is being proven with each launch, and I'm confident it will succeed. It's simply a matter of time. And it's incredibly important that we have things that we find inspiring, that you look to the future and say the future is going to be better than the past, things to look forward to. And like kids are a good way to assess this. Like, what are kids fired up about? And if you can say, you could be an astronaut on Mars. You could maybe one day go beyond the solar system. We could make Star Trek, Starfleet Academy real. I mean, you need things that move your heart.
Right.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. Let's do it. Fuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like life can't just be about solving one miserable problem after another.
Right.
There's got to be things that you look forward to as well.
yeah.
Is going on that led to Boeing building the Starliner the way that they did. They were able to get it up,
But not complete.
but can't complete.
They can't finish.
Can't finish. And
I don't
now
understand.
you're going to have to go up and finish.
Well, I mean, I think Boeing is a company that is, they actually do so much business with the government. They have sort of impedance match to the government. So they're like basically one notch away from the government, maybe two. They're not far from the government from an efficiency standpoint because they derive so much of their revenue from the government. And a lot of people think, well, SpaceX is super dependent on the government, and actually, no, most of our revenue is commercial. And there's been, I think, at least up until perhaps recently, because they have a new CEO who actually shows up in the factory.
Yeah.
And the CEO before that, I think, had a degree in accounting and never went to the factory and didn't know how airplanes flew. So I think if you are in charge of a company that makes airplanes fly and a spacecraft go to orbit,
You need to know the rocket
then
equation.
it can't be a total mystery as to how they work.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm like, sure, if somebody's like running Coke or Pepsi and they're like great at marketing or whatever, that's fine because it's not a sort of technology dependent business, or if they're running a financial consulting and their degrees in accounting, that makes sense. But I think if you're the cavalry captain, you should know how to ride a horse.
Pretty basic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Shifting gears to AI, Peter was here earlier and he was talking about how so far the only company to really make money off AI is NVIDIA with the chips.
I think the spending on AI probably runs ahead of. I mean, it does run ahead of the revenue right now. There's no question about that. But the rate of improvement of AI is faster than any technology I've ever seen by far, and it's. I mean, like for example, the Turing test used to be a thing. Now, your basic open source random LLM running on a friggin' Raspberry Pi probably could, beat the Turing test. The good future of AI is one of immense prosperity, where there is an age of abundance, no shortage of goods and services. Everyone can have whatever they want, except for things we artificially define to be scarce, like some special artwork. But anything that is a manufactured good or provided service will, I think, with the advent of AI plus robotics, that the cost of goods and services will trend to zero. Like, I'm not saying it'll be actually zero, but it'll be everyone will be able to have anything they want. Mm-hmm. That's the good future, of course. And in my view, that's probably 80% likely. So look on the bright side. Only 20%. 20% probably of annihilation. It's nothing.
Is the 20% like? What does that look like?
I don't know, man. I mean, frankly, I do have to go engage in some degree of deliberate suspension of disbelief with respect to AI in order to sleep well, and even then, because I think the actual issue, the most likely issue, is like, well, how do we find meaning in a world where AI can do everything we can do, but better? That is perhaps the bigger challenge. You need the sort of end effectors. You need the autonomous cars, and you need the sort of humanoid robots or general purpose robots. Once you have general purpose humanoid robots and autonomous vehicles, you can build anything. And there's, I think that there's no actual limit to the size of the economy. I mean, there's obviously, the mass of Earth, like that would be one limit. But the economy is really just the average productivity per person times number of people. That's the economy. And if you've got humanoid robots that can do, where there's no real limit on the number of humanoid robots, and they can operate very intelligently, then there's no actual limit to the economy. There's no meaningful limit to the economy.
You guys just turned on Colossus, which
Yeah.
is like the largest private compute cluster, I guess, of GPUs anywhere. Is that right?
It's the most powerful supercomputer of any kind.
Which sort of speaks to what David said and kind of what Peter said, which is a lot of the kind of economic value so far of AI has entirely gone to NVIDIA. But there are people with alternatives, and you're actually one with an alternative. Now, you have a very specific case because Dojo is really about images and large images, huge video. So,
the Tesla problem is different from the sort of LLM problem. The nature of the intelligence what matters in the AI is different to the point you just made, which is that in Tesla's case, the context length is very long. So we've got gigabytes of context.
gigabyte context windows, yeah.
Yeah, you've got sort of
I was just bringing it up.
kind of billions of tokens of context,
Right.
nutty amount of context, because you've got seven cameras, and if you've got several, let's say you've got a minute of several high def cameras, then that's gigabytes. So you need to compress. So the Tesla problem is you've got to compress a gigantic context into the pixels that actually matter, and condense that over a time. And so you've got to, in both the time dimension and the space dimension, you've got to compress the pixels in space and the pixels over in time, and then have that inference done on a tiny computer, relatively speaking, a small, like a few hundred watts. It's a Tesla-designed AI inference computer, which is, by the way, still the best. There isn't a better thing we could buy from suppliers. So the Tesla-designed AI inference computer that's in the cars is better than anything we could buy from any supplier. So, there's training and inference, and we do have those two projects at Tesla. We've got Dojo, which is the training computer, and then our inference chip, which is in every car, inference computer. So, and Dojo, we've only had Dojo 1. Dojo 2 is, we should have Dojo 2 in volume towards the end of next year. And that will be, we think, sort of comparable to sort of a B200 type system, a training system. I guess I have like some improved confidence in Dojo, but I think we won't really know how good Dojo is until probably version 3. Like, it usually takes 3 major iterations on a technology for it to be excellent. And we'll only have the second major iteration next year. The third iteration, I don't know, maybe late, 26 or something like that.
How's the Optimus project going? I remember when we talked last, and you said this publicly, that it's in doing some light testing inside the factory. So it's actually being useful. What's the build of materials, and when, for something like that at scale? So when you start making it like you're making the Model 3 now, and there's 1 million of them coming off the factory line, what would they cost? $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, you think?
Yeah, I've discovered that really anything made in sufficient volume will asymptotically approach the cost of its materials. So now some things are constrained by the cost of intellectual property and like paying for patents and stuff. So a lot of what's in a chip is like paying royalties and depreciation of the chip fab. So, but the actual marginal cost of the chips is very low. So Optimus, it obviously is a humanoid robot. It weighs much less and is much smaller than a car. So you could expect that in high volume, and I'd say that you also probably need three production versions of Optimus. So you need to refine the design at least three major times, and then you need to scale production to sort of the 1 million unit plus per year level. And I think at that point, the cost, the labor and materials on Optimus is probably not much more than $10,000.
Yeah, and that's a decade-long journey, maybe?
Basically, think of it like the Optimus will cost less than a small car.
Right. So
at scale volume with 3 major iterations of technology, and so if a small car, costs $25,000, it's probably like $20,000 for an Optimus, for a humanoid robot that can be your buddy, like a combination of R2D2 and C3PO, but better.
Yeah, I mean,
and honestly, I think people are going to get really attached to their humanoid robot because, like you look at you watch Star Wars and it's like R2D2 and C3PO. I love those guys.
Yeah.
They're awesome. I would say major iterations are less than 2 years, so
okay.
It's probably on the order of 5 years.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 to get to 1 million units a year.
And at that price point, everybody can afford one on planet Earth. It's going to be that 1-to-1, 2-to-1. What do you think ultimately, if we're sitting here in 30 years, the number of robots on the planet versus humans?
Yeah, I think the number of robots will vastly exceed the number of humans.
Vastly, yeah.
Vastly exceed. You have to say, who would not want their robot buddy? Everyone wants a robot buddy.
Totally.
It's just like, especially if it can, it can take care of take your dog for a walk. It could, mow the lawn. It could watch your kids. It could, it could teach your kids. It could.
We could also send it to Mars.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can send a lot of robots to Mars to do the work needed to make it a colonized planet for humans.
No, I think the sort of useful humanoid robot opportunity is the single biggest opportunity ever. Because if you assume that, I think the ratio of humanoid robots to humans is going to be at least 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1. Because everybody will want one, and then there'll be a bunch of robots that you don't see that are making goods and services.
And you think it's one generalized robot that then learns how to do different tasks, or?
Yeah.
Hey,
we are a generalized.
Yeah, we're a generalized non-robot.
We're just made of meat.
Yeah, exactly. We're a meat bot, a generalized meat bot.
Yeah, I'm operating my meat puppet. We are actually. And by the way, it turns out as we're designing Optimus, we sort of learn more and more about why humans are shaped the way they're shaped, and why we have 5 fingers and why your little finger is smaller than your index finger. Obviously why you have opposable thumbs, but also why, for example, the muscles, the major muscles that operate your hand are actually in your forearm, and your fingers are primarily operated the muscles that actuate your fingers are located. The vast majority of your finger strength is actually coming from your forearm, and your fingers are being operated by tendons, little strings. And so the current version of the Optimus hand has the actuators in the hand, and then the next generation hand has 22 degrees of freedom, which we think is enough to do almost anything that a human can do.
And presumably, I think it was written that X and Tesla may work together and provide services, but my immediate thought went to, if you just provide a grok to the robot, then the robot has a personality and can process voice and video and images and all of that stuff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, our bestie, Elon Musk.